Volcanoes dominate the horizon. Frozen rivers wind through deep valleys, and the endless tundra fades into the mist. The black beaches contrast with the gray sea. Geysers break the stillness of dawn, and dwarf forests resist the Arctic wind. Basaltic cliffs defy the waves. Fumaroles stain the air with sulfur, and the glacial lakes reflect the leaden sky. This is Kamchatka, a place where fire and snow collide in an eternal cycle of creation and destruction, forging one of the most hostile ecosystems on the planet. On this majestic yet feared peninsula, nature reveals itself in a mosaic of biomes never before imagined. Towering active volcanoes rise on the horizon, threatening to wipe out everything in their path. Icy glaciers take over the mountains, revealing the full harshness of winter. Meanwhile, on the coasts, steep cliffs and deep bays form an impregnable wall. In this land of contrasts, where, presumably under such challenging conditions, there is no room for life, wild species, in an act of rebellion and defiance, manage to prevail, challenging the status quo. Here, herds of elk crisscross the green valleys like carpets. The tiny red squirrel takes refuge in the dense taiga, and the sea otter swims on the shores surrounding this world, besieged by the seas. But Kamchatka is not a paradise. It's a battlefield. In this ecosystem, there is no room for the weak, and only the fittest succeed. From the dense boreal forests, a figure emerges like a silent killer, ready to claim a new life to satisfy its hunger. Moving like a shadow, once the Eurasian lynx has set its sights on its prey, there's nothing it can do but allow itself to be embraced by what is certain death. But not even the ferocious lynx can stand firm against the appearance of the formidable ruler of this entire ecosystem. Cruising the rivers that cross the imposing mountain range, the brown bear emerges as a gigantic beast capable of devouring everything in its path. Just one swipe of its enormous claws and it's over. Far from the taiga, where the tundra dominates the horizon, a howl resounds loudly, announcing the beginning of the hunt by a hungry pack of wolves. With the moon taking over the tundra, these dogs become the masters of the night, and the copious herds of elk feel the terror firsthand. One false step for the ungulates, and the entire herd will immediately have secured a new prey, presenting one of the most savage scenes in this ecosystem. Located in the Russian Far East, between biodiverse Siberia and the Pacific Ocean, the Kamchatka Peninsula covers an area of approximately 470,000 square kilometers, roughly twice the area of the United Kingdom. With a winding geological origin millions of years ago, Kamchatka is dominated by the Srediny and Vostochny mountain ranges. These mountain ranges contain around 160 volcanoes, of which approximately 30 are active. Imposing volcanoes such as Kronotsky and Kliuchevsky, with their height of almost 5,000 meters, stand like giants that tell the millennia-long and eventful history of this peninsula. On the slopes of these mountains, given their abysmal altitudes, temperatures take their toll, creating frozen worlds. With more than 400 glaciers, Kamchatka is one of the regions that hosts the largest number of these frozen biomes on the planet. Due to its heightened volcanic activity, Kamchatka is the site of countless geothermal phenomena, such as geysers, fumaroles, and hot springs. Between seemingly insurmountable mountain walls, the Kamchatka River rises as a mighty tributary, creating deep valleys and carrying vital liquid to this battered world dominated by rivers of lava. The areas of the peninsula not under the yoke of icy glaciers or fiery lava fields are covered by pale alpine tundra and, for the most part, lush boreal forests. These biomes are especially susceptible to seasonal ailments, where, of course, the long Russian winter, lasting up to 6 months, overshadows the rest of the seasons. Fortunately, it's summer, where hostile Kamchatka shows one of its friendlier faces. During this time, the peninsula's ecosystem bursts into color, with forests greener than ever, and the once pale alpine tundra now abounds with mosses, lichens, and vibrant flowers. In summery Kamchatka, the skies are filled with thousands of birds eager to enjoy the abundance of food, just as the rivers are brimming with fresh fish. Of course, news of countless schools of salmon has reached the ears of the almighty master of this ecosystem, who will not pass up the opportunity to devour vast quantities of salmon. For the glorious Kamchatka brown bear, the arrival of summer represents the perfect opportunity to leave the austerity of winter behind. While spring brought with it greater abundance compared to the sub-zero months, it pales in comparison to the waste of resources you are about to witness. With millions of salmon swimming up the turbulent rivers to spawn, this gigantic mammal knows exactly where to go to ensure a good meal. Although an adult bear can weigh up to 700 kilograms, due to the food shortage caused by the harsh winter, the bear has lost huge amounts of fat. But with countless salmon swarming the waters of the Kamchatka River, this colossus has a nearly infinite supply of food to regain its full gigantic size. After months of starvation, with tributaries full of fresh fish, the bear no longer limits itself to taking just enough, but proceeds to gorge itself, devouring up to 40 salmon a day. One by one, using their enormous claws up to 15 centimeters long, the fish fall into the ambush. Often by catching them in the water or hitting jumping fish, this efficient fisherman manages to make himself a copious feast. Their knowledge of the terrain also plays a crucial role during this time of abundant salmon, as some brown bears use everything to their advantage by positioning themselves at strategic points along the river, such as rapids or even waterfalls. The most daring even dive in and come out of the water with the fish in the middle of their dreaded bite. With just one salmon providing up to 5,000 calories, along with huge amounts of fat and protein, it's only a matter of time before this mammal regains its pre-winter physique. Although the endless schools of salmon are a reliable source of food, as a true omnivore, the imposing Kamchatka brown bear does not limit itself to devouring only these nutritious fish, extending its disproportionate appetite to all levels of the ecosystem. From fresh berries, tubers, bulbs, roots, ants, moths to small rodents, practically anything that even appears edible can be incorporated into the balanced diet of this imposing predator. Of course, with such a wide variety of prey available, no grizzly bear in its right mind would rather devour some blueberries, especially when there are carcasses of freshly decomposing carrion near its habitat. These victims of low winter temperatures, which finally sprout in the open air in the summer, are a feast for this cunning colossus, who will always prefer a low-cost meal to hunting. Of course, getting hold of a case won't always be an easy task. Sometimes, when a bear arrives at the site, one of its fellow bears has already arrived and is already enjoying the feast. Despite the abundance of food the ecosystem experiences, when two temperamental beasts like these meet, nothing good can happen, and with tension feeling in the air, a hostile encounter is inevitable. In a last-ditch attempt to avoid bloodshed, Both giants strike impressive intimidation poses, trying to dissuade their adversary from yielding to their attempts to seize the carcass. In this ritual, the raising of one's fur to appear larger, as well as the beating of the ground by tearing up soil and roots with one's claws, are never absent. The muffled roars and jaw clicks as the two contenders pace in a circle sizing each other up are the final stages before what could be a deadly encounter. Although most conflicts are resolved through intimidation, with the smaller bear usually giving in to a more ferocious adversary, occasionally, especially when two beasts of comparable strength and size collide, the fight escalates to physical contact. Here, with both brown bears standing on their hind legs, a bloody fight begins, in which they use their long, sharp claws to inflict as much damage as possible. With punches of up to a ton of force, each fighter seeks to knock his opponent out of the fight. Pushing and bumping shoulders also attempts to destabilize the opponent. Another of its weapons, of course, is its powerful bite, which aims directly at the ears, neck, and back. A bite to the nose can leave lifelong scars. As tensions escalate, the bears unleash their full ferocity, and reaching the point of no return, their claws now aim for the head, with nothing to hide, in an attempt to break their opponent's jaw. Deadly embraces with their arms linked as well as biting paws are other forms of hostility that can be seen on stage in some of the bloodiest battles that Kamchatka has seen. The outcome, far from the death of one of the bears, is usually the surrender of the most injured fighter, who either falls to the ground in submission or flees far from the fighting arena. The victor, growling ferociously, chases the defeated animal a few meters to ensure its escape, and immediately takes possession of its prize, devouring the carcass of what appears to be an ungulate. After having devoured a substantial prey, the bear prepares to take a well-deserved rest, while during spring they sleep for up to 12 hours. With the summer weather taking over every corner, their activity increases greatly, limiting their sleep to only about 6 hours a day in short naps of no more than 30 minutes. Often, an area of dense vegetation, or even a depression in the ground filled with a few leaves he plucks himself, is a more than convenient place to regain energy. When not resting or engaged in a vicious battle with a fellow species over prey, this gigantic mammal is likely patrolling its territory, leaving its marks and scent to ward off any potential intruders. Now, with a subtle yet intoxicating scent of pheromones filling the air, this enormous brown beast heads off toward where he hopes a receptive female, and therefore the future mother of his cubs, will be found. Of course, in an ecosystem like Kamchatka, literally teeming with males eager to mate, reproduction is a privilege, and each suitor must prove his worth through brute strength and ferocity. As the abysmal Kamchatka brown bear continues its journey to reproduction, in the bright summer sky of this untamed peninsula, a majestic bird of prey amazes with its vivid colors and brilliant flight skills. The Steller's sea eagle, also known as the great white-tailed eagle, is one of those species that, against all odds, manages to prevail in one of the least hospitable ecosystems on the planet. With a wingspan of about 2.5 meters and a weight of up to 9 kilograms, this enormous bird of prey is far from being a simple bird. Its unmistakable plumage is mostly dyed in shades of dark brown to black, which contrasts strongly with a white head. A very robust bright orange beak, one of the largest among birds of prey, gives it a frightening yet striking appearance. Its powerful legs, also yellow, with large curved claws, are ideal for capturing its defenseless prey. Like the giant brown bear, the Steller sea eagle benefits greatly from the vast quantities of salmon that flood the Kamchatka tributaries. Given its feeding habits, this ace of the skies prefers to settle in coastal regions, along imposing sea cliffs. Likewise, river valleys where salmon-filled rivers flow through towering mountain ranges are a strategically convenient place to settle. Usually perched on a high perch or flying over rivers at a moderate height, the eagle scans the water, relying on its very keen eyesight in search of prey. The discreet silhouette of a fresh salmon can be more than enough for the fish to reveal its position, attracting the attention of this impregnable angler. Upon sighting its prey, it immediately plummets towards the person who is about to become its victim. Extending its sharp talons just before hitting the water, in a fraction of a second, the eagle has made a substantial catch. In addition to its accurate flying skills, the secret to these lightning attacks lies in the blades it carries as claws. These allow him to hold slippery fish without wavering. The spikes on his fingers also provide additional grip, preventing him from ending up empty-handed after a well-planned catch. When greed overcomes its surprising strength, and the prey exceeds its enormous carrying capacity of approximately 8 kilograms, the great white-tailed eagle has no problem devouring its catch at the surface of the water, or even dragging it to the shore. Despite its unsurpassed fishing skills, this cunning bird of prey sometimes prefers not to even get its talons wet, letting another bird do the hard work for it. When other, much less ferocious birds such as gulls or smaller eagles snatch up prey, it is best, if the Steller sea eagle is nearby, to devour their catch immediately. Otherwise, in a pure display of kleptoparasitism, the bird of prey will rob them of their catch based on its greater physical strength. Even some mammals, such as Arctic foxes, can witness the eagle moving away over the horizon with what, just moments ago, was the fruit of its hard work. Often, when not snatching fresh salmon from the surface or harassing other species until they are robbed of their prey, the great white-tailed eagle lies peacefully perched on a perch. This resting behavior is crucial for saving energy, and is also very convenient after having a large meal like a juicy fish. A good grooming routine for its striking plumage is also part of this bird of prey's daily routine. By patiently preening its feathers, it keeps them clean and free of parasites, in optimal condition for both flight and thermal insulation. While life for singles is relatively simple, enjoying the creator's bounty with vast quantities of salmon swimming in the waters, for couples, summer in Kamchatka brings with it the challenges of parenting. After mating, the monogamous couple efficiently works on repairs to what will be the home of their future eaglets during their first months of life. Given the impressive size of these birds, it's easy to guess that their nest won't be particularly small. In fact, with a diameter of about 2.5 meters and weighing up to 500 kilograms, it is nothing less than the largest nest in the entire wild. Of course, to support such a structure, a robust tree is needed, capable of housing such a voluminous complex. The clutch is usually made up of 2 eggs, which both parents will incubate for around 45 days. After this delicate period, the tiny chicks finally hatch and see the wild ecosystem of Kamchatka with their own eyes. The young chicks require the rigorous care of their partners for a long time, until they are able to fend for themselves. Typically, the father is responsible for seeking food for the family, while the female takes on the task of caring for the eaglets. While, given their size and their frightening weapons of a robust beak and sharp talons, few species would even consider approaching a stellar sea eagle, the chicks do not inspire even the slightest trace of fear in predators such as martens, foxes, and wolverines. Of course, the remote location of the nest in tall trees or inaccessible cliffs makes it almost impossible for these carnivores to even get a close look at an eaglet. The opposite is the case for some birds of prey that might consider devouring one of these juicy offspring. Of course, this will be a good plan, as long as a very angry female is not nearby. The mother will not be at all happy about an intruder approaching her chicks, so she will immediately, without thinking twice, attack any invader who dares to see her chicks as prey. It won't be until about 80 days later that the young fledglings become capable of flight. However, even after this, the pair will still be faced with the burden of feeding them, as well as training them in hunting skills and other survival measures. After a year of birth, that is, when the next mating season arrives, the no longer so little eagles will seek their own path, soaring far from the nest without looking back. Just as giant sea eagles see the Russian summer as the perfect time to expand their families, the mighty moose find this season the perfect time of year to breed. While the mating season will not bear fruit for almost a year, when the females give birth to one or perhaps two calves weighing no more than 15 kilograms, it all begins in Kamchatka's summer of excesses. While the breeding season for species like the Steller's sea eagle begins captivatingly with stunning nuptial flights, where the pair display their close bond, for moose, the mating season is, shall we say, a bit more tortuous. With the beginning of the rut, the bulls, eager for copulation, begin to establish their mating areas. Here, as soon as the sun rises over the horizon, these burly stallions emit loud growls that can travel up to 3 kilometers in any direction. These vocalizations attempt to attract receptive females to them, in a complex dialect where the lower the call, the more attractive the moose. Like males, fertile females may emit nasal moans during their short heat of no more than 48 hours, trying to guide the bulls in their direction. As soon as a mating-hungry male hears the female's call, he will rush to her location, intent on capturing the fertile cow. Many times upon arrival, the ungulate is unpleasantly surprised to find that another suitor has gone ahead and begun his courtship ritual with the female that he claims belongs to him. Here, before it is too late and the other bull completes the courtship, the newcomer will join in the conquest of the female, strutting and showing off his large antlers, which can measure almost 2 meters. A perhaps unorthodox way to attract the female in dispute, and at the same time intimidate another suitor, is to urinate on the ground and then roll in it, releasing all his scent. As time passes and none of the cuckolds decides to give up the receptive female in play, the intensity of the intimidation ritual increases, and the elk stand up to appear larger, as well as stomping the ground and hitting trees with their sharp antlers in what is just a demonstration of their ferocity. But in the world of elk, only the fittest reproduce, and with neither male showing any intention of relinquishing his right to mate, the altercation escalates, with both suitors butting their long antlers again and again. Pushing with tremendous force, the goal is to unbalance the opponent, breaking his posture. While this clash between two enormous beasts weighing up to 700 kilograms seems like one of the most merciless duels in all of Kamchatka's wildlife, the truth is that these fights are highly ritualized, with each male, instead of trying to exhaust his opponent, focusing on subduing him in order to win the prize of a fertile cow. Despite this, in many duels the antlers are broken, and one of the ungulates can accidentally end up being impaled by the other, causing a fatal wound. Although a defeated moose often only suffers minor injuries from exhaustion, it can be more than amenable to the countless predators that roam its surroundings. While the unfortunate defeated moose must deal with its wounds in profound fatigue, the victor is quick to do its work, in a copulation that usually lasts no more than a minute. Fortunately for the bull, after so much effort to win the female, the pair copulates countless times during the short period of heat, as a measure to ensure reproductive success. After the female moose's heat ends, each ungulate goes its own way. While the female prepares to enjoy all the abundance that reigns in the ecosystem, the male may try to acquire a new receptive female, clearly demonstrating that monogamy is not his thing. Once the rutting season is over, the male also becomes engrossed in the task of satisfying his appetite. Since the available grazing time during the mating season is limited, the burly bull can lose large amounts of muscle mass, so he must take advantage of the generous summer days to recover. As a good browsing species, these ungulates will not waste all those birch, willow, and poplar leaves that flood the boreal forests. In addition to these, aquatic plants growing on the banks of rivers are also a very good source of food during the Kamchatka summer. Reaching the consumption of up to 30 kilograms of vegetation per day, only an ecosystem as generous as this one can withstand such a high demand for resources. Since finding such an exorbitant amount of food is not a particularly quick task, even in fertile Kamchatka in summer, moose can spend up to 12 hours foraging. On one of his long foraging walks, a lone moose hears the worst sound any wild species inhabiting untamed Kamchatka can hear. The howl of a ferocious gray wolf resounds on the horizon. With this terrifying call, the alpha announces to the pack the start of a hunt. With such a fearsome roar, the ungulate tries to flee, but when faced with a whole pack of formidable hunters, any attempt to escape is simply useless. While dealing with a formidable canine weighing up to 70 kilograms, with a robust body and a powerful bite is a challenge, facing a pack of a dozen wild predators is an impossible mission. Led by a cunning alpha who plans every move within the hunt, the pack advances as a coordinated unit, closing off any possibility of escape for the herbivore. Although both prey and predators run at comparable speeds, the canine's charge is not based on speed, but rather on an exhaustive chase over miles that eventually exhausts the moose, turning it into prey to fatigue. Using the terrain to their advantage, the hunters manage to surround the herbivore, little by little, leading it to its death. While the alpha, along with the strongest members of the pack, is in charge of chasing the prey, other dogs line the flanks, limiting escape routes. After traveling vast distances through the forest on trembling legs, the deer inevitably succumbs to exhaustion, and almost instantly the canids arrive to end its agony, managing in the process to seize a colossal prey weighing almost 700 kilograms. Although the pack has captured enough prey for everyone to gorge themselves, the wolf world is governed by a strict hierarchy, where the alpha pair, among other privileges, has the right to inaugurate the kill, taking the best parts. Although this may seem like an act of absolute monarchism, the truth is that this is a survival measure adopted by the pack to ensure that the reproductive pair is well fed and capable of producing strong, healthy new pups. The alphas are followed by the betas on feeding time, those who, in the absence of the leaders, would take control of the pack. Once the higher-ranking wolves have taken the best parts of the prey, it's finally the subordinate adults' turn to settle for the leftovers. In packs with pups, The cubs will have priority in the hierarchy, even when feeding on regurgitated meat. In some groups, there is the figure of an omega wolf, who is responsible for relieving tension within the pack by acting as a scapegoat. While his role is crucial to the pack's harmony and sustenance, his disadvantaged social status leaves him last in the division of prey. Since pack cohesion is one of the great secrets to these dogs' survival, maintaining stable group bonds is one of their main concerns. In the complex social life of these canids, body language plays a crucial role. Through dominance postures such as perching, raising their tails, or maintaining a fixed gaze, higher-ranking wolves always try to keep the group hierarchy harmless, reaffirming their position of dominance to those members with delusions of grandeur. Submissive displays often include licking the dominant's nose, pinning their ears back, and lowering their tails. Of course, vocalizations also constitute a fundamental element in the social relationships of these canines. Just as howls serve to coordinate their elaborate hunting strategies, along with grunts and moans, they serve to strengthen their bonds, claim territory, or even as warning and submission signals. Of all your forms of communication, physical contact is probably one of the most expressive. Gray wolves often lick, rub, and even sleep together to strengthen their pack bond. Considering their ferocity, gray wolves boast very few predators in the wild Kamchatka ecosystem. Except for the violent clashes they may have with brown bears in dangerous hunts for prey or carrion, there are no other wild species that dare to challenge this coordinated squad of skilled hunters. In fact, most of the time, the main threat to a pack of gray wolves is, precisely, another pack of these dogs. Although a pack can cover up to 200 square kilometers, encounters between neighboring packs, far from being an isolated event, become a daily occurrence. To prevent invasion of their territory, wolves often patrol the borders, marking with their scent to warn intruders of their presence. Aware of the ferocity that often ensues when two packs collide, wolves generally try to avoid each other, something their deep howls can do to announce their presence. However, peace is not always an option. When an area of abundant resources is invaded by a rival pack, resident wolves will immediately go to defend what belongs to them. Unlike internal pack clashes, used to establish dog hierarchy, where combat is highly ritualized, in fights for territorial dominance, there are no rules, with the canines letting out all their savagery. Upon finding intruders in their domain, the resident pack will try to control the invasion by responding forcefully. Upon encountering invaders, the defenders will adopt dominant postures, raising their fur to appear larger, growling, and showing their sharp teeth in what is a 100% threatening attitude. In this first clash between packs, the number of wolves is a determining factor. Just one more wolf can end up making a big difference, causing the smaller pack to not even consider attacking. The presence of adult dogs with extensive battle experience is also an undeniable advantage, as these veterans often perform optimally during bloody clashes. After displays of dominance, the resident pack begins a rapid pursuit of the invaders, in an attempt to expel them from its territory. When threatening postures and pursuits fail, hand-to-hand combat is the only solution to determine ownership of territory. Here, the canines group together in pairs, and a fierce battle ensues where devastating bites inflict severe wounds on the head, neck, legs, and flanks. While it may be brief, the fighting is intense, and fatal injuries are dangerously common. After the lightning encounter, the less fortunate pack usually abandons the territory, with at least one member of the pack dying from their injuries. As ferocious packs of gray wolves re-establish the boundaries of their domains, far from the boreal forests that dominate the peninsula, harbor seals congregate in their dozens on the rugged, rocky coasts. Weighing up to 150 kilograms and measuring almost 2 meters in length, these giant marine mammals are the guardians of Kamchatka's coasts. Although their weight can fluctuate seasonally depending on food availability, during the peninsular summer, seals experience the full abundance of this ecosystem firsthand. With a primarily piscivorous diet, the thousands of herring, cod, capelin, sole, plaice, and salmon that fill the coasts are a feast for these mammals. When their stomachs begin to growl, the seals don't hesitate, and they dive into the dark waters of the Pacific. In these, the pinnipeds demonstrate their prodigious swimming skills. Its robust, torpedo-shaped body, with 4 short webbed fins, is ideal for gliding through the waters with astonishing agility. Although they usually swim at about 15 kilometers per hour, when the situation is urgent, they are capable of reaching surprising speeds of up to 35 kilometers per hour in short bursts. Its large, dark eyes also allow it to see with surprising acuity, even at very shallow depths, where sunlight is nothing more than a myth. Its robust build, combined with enviable underwater skills, allows it to dive up to 500 meters below the surface and go up to 20 minutes without needing to breathe. Literally like a fish in water, the harbor seal has no problem catching countless fish, with just one specimen devouring up to 7 kilograms a day. Of course, in order to sink its sharp teeth into fresh fish, it must first find them, something its sensitive whiskers are crucial to. Detecting even the slightest movement of prey within tens of meters, the mammal is able to locate it, even when its keen eyesight is of little use. As soon as it spots a juicy school of fish, or perhaps a fresh crustacean, the seal dives straight for them, showing off all its underwater skills. In a swift attack, the pinniped captures large fish in a single bite, relying on its very sharp teeth. These allow the skilled hunter to catch them without the risk of them slipping and ending up empty-handed. After being caught, the seal swallows its fresh catch whole, without having to chew it. With its stomach full, the satisfied mammal emerges from the water and rests on the beach for long periods, trying to regulate its body temperature. After immersing itself in the icy waters, this rest time is crucial to avoid hypothermia. In addition to keeping warm, the seals save energy during these relaxing breaks from their hectic routine, which is convenient, since their true test will come when winter takes hold of this ecosystem, a time when they will require a thick layer of fat to insulate them from the low temperatures. For harbor seals, summer in Kamchatka is also the perfect time to molt, a gradual process in which their fur renews itself, maintaining its thermal insulation and hydrodynamic properties, as well as eliminating parasites and sun damage. Although they may appear to be a close-knit pack while perched on the beach, basking in the sun to warm themselves, or shedding their skin, given their habit of gathering in groups of up to hundreds of mammals. The truth is that seals are not at all social, distancing themselves from other pinnipeds, such as sea lions and walruses. In these large aggregations, there is no social interaction between individuals. Here, each seal acts individually, without even the slightest trace of a hierarchy. Differing once again from other marine mammals, during the breeding season, which also takes place in the abundant summer in Kamchatka, harbor seals carry out an underwater courtship display in which males perform aquatic displays, swimming in specific patterns, or even follow females, trying to attract their attention. In the underwater courtship of these mammals, the key is patience, as a male can follow a female for up to several days, warding off other suitors and trying to convince the female to mate. As a reward for her persistence, the female may end up giving in to the male's charms, giving him what she wants, and opening up to an underwater copulation that can last around 30 minutes. It will not be until after about 11 months that a small calf will end up being born very close to the beaches where it was conceived. Of course, Kamchatka's summer for harbor seals isn't just about breeding and endless food. Just as these mammals congregate in their hundreds to enjoy the abundant schools of fish that abound along the coasts, the waste of resources experienced by this ecosystem attracts unwanted visitors for the seals. The numerous pods of killer whales are a threat of epic proportions to the survival of pinnipeds. As they swim peacefully across the surface, in a matter of seconds, a gigantic orca can emerge from the water and bite through the seal's body. Another potential danger to these non-aggressive mammals are hungry great white sharks, who patiently wait for the right moment to attack. While the cunning seal tries to get its hands on a fresh fish, this shark watches from a distance, preparing its attack to end the life of the defenseless mammal, and in turn, capture a not inconsiderable prey. Of course, with their prodigious swimming abilities, seals will not be easy prey, and for these deadly carnivores to devour them, they will first have to be caught. When they find themselves in the sights of these vicious predators, the seals put all their skills in the water to the test, swimming at full speed in short bursts and making erratic movements to elude their pursuers. In these attempts to escape death, their extensive knowledge of the terrain also represents a convenient advantage, since there is always the alternative of taking refuge in an underwater cave, crevices between rocks, or even in shallow waters where predators could never reach them. When pitted against seasoned killers like orcas and great white sharks in a true David versus Goliath battle, seals can accomplish the unthinkable, living to tell the tale. While harbor seals survive the most ruthless predators, on the other side of the peninsula, crossing the imposing mountain ranges and the thickest areas of the boreal forests, on the border of the taiga and the vast tundra, the bold wolverine appears among the vegetation. With its long, dense, dark brown fur, the gulo is one of the wild species that dominates the Kamchatka ecosystem. Despite being relatively small, measuring around 1 meter and weighing no more than 25 kilograms, what this mammal lacks in size, it makes up for in exacerbated ferocity. The wolverine is widely recognized for its ability to fight larger animals and ultimately emerge victorious. A robust body with disproportionate strength is one of its main weapons when facing the most feared predators of the peninsula. Of course, its large paws crowned by very sharp semi-retractable claws, as well as a powerful jaw capable of crushing bones, make the wolverine one of the most feared wild species in this volcanic kingdom. Given its well-known reputation for ferocity, there are very few species that would want to get in the way of this anything but peaceful mammal. Only heavyweights like the mighty brown bears, or the large packs of gray wolves could emerge victorious in a hostile encounter with the gulo. Despite this, aware that nothing is set in stone in nature, even these formidable predators generally prefer not to push their luck and avoid a confrontation with a rival that could cause significant injuries. While a large pack of canines can scare a wolverine away from a carcass, when a lone wolf encounters this robust mongoose, things don't go so well for the canine. The wolverine's unbridled aggressiveness, combined with boundless courage, means that during these encounters it unleashes all the violence it is capable of inflicting. Just by seeing its sharp teeth accompanied by a set of sharp blades that act as claws, the wolf knows it has gotten into trouble. The long, thick fur of this stocky mustelid is another of its adaptations for close-quarters combat. This makes it difficult for predators to hold it firmly, giving it a wide range of motion to counterattack. This ensures that no matter how many bites the wolf is able to deliver, the ferocious wolverine will almost always remain unharmed and will attack with disproportionate aggression. Despite being a formidable fighter, capable of standing up to any other wild species across the Kamchatka Peninsula, this cunning mammal sometimes prefers to avoid violence, and, upon detecting a potential challenge nearby, will take refuge in crevices between rocks, some patch of dense vegetation, or even, relying on its versatile claws, dig a hole to bury itself. Boasting a very sensitive sense of smell, it is able to detect potential threats before they even suspect its presence. This same sophisticated sense allows him to find what could be juicy prey. Aside from its well-known ferocity, wolverines often hunt relatively small prey, including rodents such as voles or lemmings, hares, shrews, marmots, and even landbirds. However, at times it can be much more ambitious, capturing prey that is even much larger than itself, such as young reindeer. The gulo-gulo hunting strategies are practically endless. When confronted by a large ungulate, the plan is often to chase it for miles until it succumbs to exhaustion. Given its very high resistance, the wolverine can engage in a marathon race, where simultaneously it inflicts serious injuries on its imminent victim. It is only after several kilometers during which the prey has been exposed to overwhelming fatigue that it gives in and finally surrenders, something the hunter does not waste, and delivers the final blow to make a copious catch. When it comes to small and medium-sized prey, ambushing them on the trails they frequently travel is a surefire strategy. Hidden among the vegetation, at the precise moment, the wolverine, with a swipe of his paw, makes off with a succulent catch. In addition to allowing them to deliver powerful swipes, their claws are extremely versatile for their hunting habits. They are of great help when digging in the ground to raid rodent burrows, as well as when a nest high in a tree houses a few protein-rich eggs. Aside from being one of the most ferocious hunters in this ecosystem, this cunning survivor sometimes has no problem turning into a despicable scavenger, devouring the carcasses that Kamchatka's hectic wildlife presents him with. During times of abundance, such as summer, one of the most interesting behaviors of this ingenious carnivore is its caching of food. Whether nestled among rocks or hidden in dense vegetation, storing prey is always a good idea when living in a place where food sources can be unpredictable. Since not everything can be hunting and facing hostile predators, from time to time, the gulo-gulo enjoys leading a quiet life. Whether roaming the territory protecting their domains from invaders, or simply curling up in a comfortable cave, these tasks complement the mustelid's hostile routine. Like the temperamental wolverine, another wild species with a habit of storing food for when winter austerity arrives is the tiny red squirrel. Weighing around 300 grams and measuring no more than 24 centimeters without counting the tail, this compact rodent is probably among the smallest residents of the entire peninsula. But we shouldn't be fooled by its small size, because what it lacks in size, it makes up for in cunning. Since its appearance, characterized by striking reddish-brown fur, a long bushy tail and pointy ears, doesn't exactly inspire fear, the squirrel ensures its survival with extensive planning. Aware that summer's bounty won't last forever, this cautious rodent, in addition to devouring vast quantities of food, is preparing to endure winter's austerity by building a well-stocked pantry. As the perfect example of an omnivorous species, there is no food this prodigious survivor will say no to. Seeds, berries, nuts, mushrooms, buds, flowers, insects, bird eggs, and even tender chicks can all be easily incorporated into their very varied diet. Although the red squirrel in Kamchatka can devour tens of grams of seeds and other food per day in the summer, most of its efforts are focused on gathering food for its winter reserves. Thanks to its large eyes, this skilled seed gatherer can find sustenance, even in the vastness of boreal forests. A very sensitive sense of smell is also part of their toolkit for finding food. The little squirrel, like a bloodhound, senses even the slightest scent from hundreds of meters away and immediately heads for that fresh berry or tender seed. With enviable climbing skills, this rodent is capable of scaling trees with surprising ease and can search for food in all strata of the forest. Snacks he has hidden will end up lost forever or devoured by his fellow rodents, who, hidden in the shadows, have remained attentive to the place where he stashed his pantry. In addition to creating a good food supply, another task that occupies them during the summer is maintaining their nest. Built from branches, leaves, and moss in tree forks or cavities, these provide shelter when temperatures drop below zero and the forest is covered in a thick layer of snow. Of course, whether she's searching for food or busy renovating her home, the tiny rodent is always alert to her surroundings, knowing full well that the list of predators eager to devour her tender flesh is almost endless. Birds of prey such as snowy owls, ferocious falcons, and goosehawks are always scanning the ground for some tiny rodent to lay their sharp claws on. Likewise, fierce predators on land such as stoats, foxes, wildcats, and even wolves and wolverines may see this compact mammal as juicy prey. To avoid perishing at the hands of these cunning hunters, the creator has endowed the defenseless squirrel with countless skills that make it a master of the art of escape. Even amid the rugged terrain of boreal forests, the red squirrel moves with impressive agility. Whether leaping between branches, running on the ground, or climbing to the relative safety of trees, this rodent will do whatever it takes to avoid ending up in the stomach of a vicious carnivore. To detect any potential threat early enough, the small mammal always guards its perimeter, alert to anything that might even seem like a sign of danger. Although their fur may seem striking, the truth is that it performs a prodigious camouflage function among the tree foliage. In many cases, upon spotting a predator nearby, their first line of defense will be to remain motionless, trying to go unnoticed. If the carnivore has undeniably located the squirrel, it will then demonstrate its surprising agility as an escape artist, heading straight for cover in one of the many hiding places it may have throughout the forest. Despite not being at all social, living in complete solitude except during the breeding season, when they are besieged by a predator, they can emit powerful cries in an attempt to alert their peers, so that they can also take cover, in a behavior that also serves to show the predator that it has been detected, and that it has lost the element of surprise. Aside from this measure that seeks to preserve the species, red squirrels do not tend to have many social relationships. In fact, these rodents can even become extremely territorial, responding with loud screams and hostile chases when they see one of their fellow species dare to invade their territory. To avoid these intrusions, squirrels spend a good part of their day leaving marks along the borders of their domains. Here, urine trails, the use of scent glands, and even visual marks from biting into tree bark are warning signs to prevent outsiders from even thinking of trespassing on their land. Like the red squirrel, another wild species from Kamchatka that knows only too well what it means to have vicious predators on its tail. It lives on the rough coasts, where the waters of the Pacific lash with all their force against the rocky cliffs. Sea otters not only have to deal with the burden of having the planet's most ferocious predators, killer whales, on their tail, but they are also targeted by sea lions and great seals, as well as stellar sea eagles, in the case of the youngest specimens. But, weighing up to 45 kilograms, and measuring up to 1.5 meters, in the case of the most robust males. These marine mammals prove that they are not simply prey, making a place for themselves in this ruthless ecosystem. With a long, streamlined body and large webbed hind feet, sea otters move through the water with enviable agility. Being prodigious swimmers, they can outrun even the most relentless underwater hunters, swimming at high speeds and making sharp turns that confuse their pursuers. Unlike solitary seals who tend to swim alone, sea otters tend to congregate in large groups called rafts, where anywhere from a few dozen to several hundred individuals of the same sex congregate. These numerous gatherings allow mammals to take refuge in the size of the group, where hundreds of eyes see better than two. Upon seeing the presence of a terrifying fin on the horizon, the sea otters demonstrate their swimming skills and make a quick escape. With countless otters swimming erratically, they manage to wreak havoc on the predator, often managing to escape unharmed. Often, the destination of these rapid retreats is dense kelp forests, where visibility is limited, and the otters manage to escape what would otherwise be certain death. In addition to escaping the fearsome bite of the planet's most vicious predators, during the summer, these marine mammals devour copious amounts of food. Lacking a layer of fat, sea otters need to maintain a very fast metabolism in order to conserve body heat. This translates into an excessive appetite, with each mammal consuming up to a third of its body weight in food per day, which represents approximately 15 kilograms of food. The diet of this carnivore is highly specialized, based mainly on seabed invertebrates, such as sea urchins, mollusks, crustaceans, and occasionally fish. Like seals, to find these fresh foods, they rely on very sensitive whiskers, which can detect even the slightest movement underwater. A keen eye is also complemented by very agile front legs, capable of manipulating prey with great subtlety. During their walks on the seabed, where they dive up to 60 meters deep, the loose folds of skin under their hind legs serve as pockets for the fresh snacks they come across. After several minutes submerged, the otters emerge to the surface and begin to swim peacefully on their backs, while devouring the fresh treasures they have acquired after their journey to the depths. Here, these marine mammals demonstrate one of their most peculiar behaviors, using tools such as rocks to open shells or crustaceans. But not everything in a sea otter's life is about hunting. Their hectic daily routine also includes time for leisure activities, such as grooming, which they spend a large part of their day doing, and which is also a great way to keep their fur clean. Another task they spend up to 12 hours a day on is the not-so-exhausting task of resting. Floating face up in the water, these mammals take the task of saving energy very seriously. Usually, to prevent them from being carried away by the currents, they wrap themselves in kelp. Similarly, some populations form resting groups, where the otters hold on to each other's paws to avoid being left adrift alone. In addition to these social contacts, although they are not highly gregarious, these mustelids occasionally engage in group play with algae or rocks. Just as they can sometimes appear surprisingly social, in certain cases, they bring out their most hostile side in somewhat dishonest practices with their peers. In these antisocial acts, otters steal each other's prey and fight among males over feeding and mating grounds. Back on dry land, passing from the choppy waters of the Pacific to the dense taiga, where coniferous forests hide an intimidating ghost hunter. Just as the Eurasian lynx appears in a matter of seconds, it vanishes, of course, but not before taking a life with it. At almost 1.5 meters long and weighing close to 40 kilograms, this wild feline is, without a doubt, one of the most formidable predators in the entire Kamchatka ecosystem. While in winter, a thick natural coat covers the body of this feared feline, during the Russian summer, it becomes much lighter, and its coloration changes from a grayish base to reddish tones, with darker, well-defined spots on the skull, legs, and back. Its characteristic triangular ears with large tufts of fur at the tips, as well as its prominent whiskers and a kind of fur collar around its neck, give this captivating feline an even more striking appearance. However, as attractive as it is, the lynx is one of the most vicious species across this biodiverse peninsula. Being a strict carnivore, for the lynx, there is no other way to satisfy its appetite than by gutting a defenseless prey. This is when hare populations are left in a very compromised position in the food chain, serving as the main source of sustenance for this impregnable hunter. When hares are scarce due to their very high demand as prey, this predator has no objection to expanding its diet to include small and medium-sized ungulates, such as roe deer, reindeer calves, or snow mouflons. Likewise, birds, moderate-sized rodents, and even, if the opportunity arises, fresh carrion, also constitute a good part of their diet. When it comes to hunting, one of the wild species that inspires the most fear, without a doubt, is the wild lynx. With a hunting strategy based on stalking, this calm and cold predator is capable of carefully observing its prey for up to hours, until it sees the opportunity to finally launch its attack. Just as its stealthy gait, moving through dense vegetation without revealing its position, is a real advantage when hunting, its very sensitive senses of sight and hearing help it locate its prey, perceiving very subtle movements and listening to discrete sounds from very long distances. Possessing natural hunting skills, once the lynx has its sights set on its prey, there's little it can do to avoid being devoured. Its advanced camouflage, strategically dyed in summer colors, allows it to literally disappear into the landscape. While the gulo has a very varied book of hunting strategies, this feline chooses to limit its plans to fleeting ambushes in which it takes its victims by surprise, attacking them with a powerful leap. Once on its prey, it uses its very sharp claws to swipe at it, which, in the case of rodents and hares, can even tear its life to pieces. However, in the case of large ungulates, its claws are used to attach themselves to the animal's body and deliver the final blow with a powerful bite directly to the throat. Despite displaying unprecedented ferocity against its helpless victims, the Eurasian lynx does not reveal this same side when the powerful roar of a hungry wolf pack is heard nearby, or when the dark shadow of a brown bear moves through the trees in the forest. Typically, the point of friction that triggers an encounter between these predators can be a fight over a carcass, something that represents a feast for these carnivores, even in the midst of the bountiful Kamchatka summer. Of course, seeing itself at a clear physical disadvantage, the lynx will always prefer to save its life rather than engage in a pointless fight where it will inevitably get hurt. Therefore, whenever it detects the slightest sign of a formidable predator, it will rely on its unmatched stealth to disappear. Of course, the alternative of vanishing into the vegetation is not always on the table, so sometimes desperate situations call for desperate measures, and the feline must engage in a duel to the death with a coordinated pack of wolves, or face the all-powerful predator of this ecosystem, the brown bear. Against both opponents, the strategy is simple. Resist the opponent's attacks, and as soon as you see the slightest possibility of escape, flee. In the case of wolves, tree branches can be an impregnable refuge, given the canine's limited climbing abilities. For its part, when fighting against a giant like a brown bear, agility is one of the only parameters where the feline feels superior, so it must rely on it to repeatedly dodge the mammal's blows. While these encounters can be extremely bloodthirsty, and the feline often ends up perishing, they are part of Kamchatka's hectic wildlife in its purest form. Unfortunately, far from being prey for skillful wolf packs or the flamboyant brown bear, each year dozens of lynxes fall victim to poachers who take on the heartless task of killing these majestic felines for their fur. For some nearby indigenous peoples, such as the Koryaks, lynx hunting is even part of their ancient culture, where species such as seals and even the giant brown bear also suffer the brunt. Not even this amazing mammal is unscathed by the repercussions of human activities in isolated Kamchatka. Like the ferocious lynx, this colossal beast is hunted by ruthless hunters who see nothing in it but a skin. With the rise of the black market for animal parts in Russia and China, the persecution of this species is becoming increasingly intense. With a bear's gallbladder fetching up to $20,000, many criminals would dare to kill such an amazing creature. But the life of the brown bear in Kamchatka is also threatened by the availability of food. Although large schools of salmon continue to fill the waters during the summer, the truth is that, as a result of overfishing, many years, the great salmon migration is not even a shadow of what it was seasons ago. And in an ecosystem where these fresh fish provide sustenance to species like bears, sea eagles, and seals, their scarcity could leave an indelible scar. Given the vast amounts of mineral resources in the area, coastal waters in Kamchatka are often flooded with tons of mining waste, which can harm marine life. An example of this was the ecological disaster that occurred on Koloktyrsky Beach in 2020, when thousands of marine mammals succumbed to high levels of petroleum products. Despite its extremely isolated location from major cities, Kamchatka is currently experiencing the serious effects of climate change. Being a world based on the balance of two titanic forces, fire and ice, and also subject to the regime of the seasons, with increasingly longer winters and more scorching summers, the challenges for the preservation of the wild species of this untamed peninsula are numerous. With the intensification of droughts, Areas that were once covered in permanent ice have now been completely consumed, creating a new reality for a vast array of biomes. Likewise, with average temperatures rising each year, forest fires are becoming more frequent, ravaging vast swaths of the taiga and claiming the lives of thousands of animal species. However, the resilience of these species, as well as their ability to survive in one of the most hostile, yet fascinating ecosystems on the planet, should motivate us to work for a pristine, untamed, and wild Kamchatka. Have you been amazed by the stories of Kamchatka's wild creatures? Then don't forget to give us a like, and you can also leave a comment in the box below to tell us which wild species amazed you the most. Remember, to stay up to date with our latest updates, you can click the subscribe button and the notification bell to stay up to date with our new videos. If you want to help us grow and share with your friends the magical wildlife of this isolated volcanic world, you can share the video with your loved ones. Without further ado, we'll see you next time with more stories of ferocious bears, colorful birds, enormous ungulates, and of course, wildlife.